I just finished a phone call with a friend about relationship advice because obviously this has been loudest in my field, and I almost didn't talk about relationship stuff today because I'm feeling really good and settled, and I was like, I don't need to. But I thought I would actually discuss some conversations I've had with 3 couples that I admire so deeply, and I wanted to hear from them, the truly lived experts, what it is that has made their relationships be so powerful and strong and stand the test of time. And those people are my aunt and uncle who've been married over 65 years or something. They're in their 80s. And a good friend of mine who's actually my esthetician and her husband, who've been married, I can't even remember, but they have 4 teen kids, and they are so happily in love and just have so much fun together and are radiant in their love. And then the last one is actually a good friend of mine who I co-hosted a retreat with one time, who was my business coach, and she's really wonderful. And the way she speaks of her husband, it's just so lovely. And you can tell, like, these people have found their people, and this is why. Besides there being chemistry and compatibility, right? The baseline of attraction and fun, easy rapport together, this kind of magnetic piece, which can happen with people that aren't good for you, and that's really confusing, I know. But you have that, and then you also have a piece, which is we have established lifestyles and values that are similar. Neither of us feel like we need to contort into each other's lives. We don't need to. Like, things are good and easy. And contortion can still happen because people can lose themselves or lose their motivation or sense of self in relationships because they pour too much into the relationship. So I also was really curious about how people maintain this sense of autonomy and sovereignty throughout time, because that's what creates the polarity, and that's what keeps the chemistry. And that's, of course, what keeps things just in balance compatibility-wise. Like, we have to stay in ourselves, like I said, like those 2 oceans that come together but are still 2 oceans full of life. So here are some of the things that I learned from these people when I talked to them. Number 1, this was my aunt's advice. There are plenty of fish in the sea. The sea is packed, she says. She's always said this. She said, I always knew that my husband was not the only one for me. There are billions of more people. And she said, but I adored this man and I chose to be with him. And I remember as a teen where I'd only really seen Codependency, and I listened to that and I was like, what? How could you say there are plenty of other fish in the sea? Like, it almost felt like I was like, is this screwed up for you to say this when you have this husband? Like, how could you even think that? And the whole story with, like, there's only one and one person for you and the only one, the one true one. That's literally just not true. And I think it's really beautiful when people recognize that, not because it's not loyal, it's because they recognize the beautiful choice they're making to choose this very special person that meets them. And of course, everybody's gonna come with something, but is that something that you guys are both willing to work with and through together? That's the question. So she even shares a story about how once upon a time he wasn't meeting her needs and was doing something that she didn't agree with. So she let him go. She said, okay, that's enough. You can leave. This is the end. And he said, and anyways, she basically kicked him out. And he came back. And he never did it again. He never, it was drinking was the issue. He never drank again. He changed his ways and he decided she was worth it. And of course she had to trust that he was going to continue, and he did. So she chose him. She loves him. The thing was, he had to make the change. Like, he had to meet her. We have to meet each other. And so I loved her advice, which was, first of all, I see how loving and devotional they are, that they choose each other. They choose to spend time with each other. They choose to be independent and have their things and have their girls' weekend and their guys' things and their hobbies that they do separately and together. And that there's always this kind of check-in and this love together as they maintain this sense of sovereignty and their personal power. But they meet each other. Then I spoke with the friend who was my business coach, and she said, first of all, there's a baseline of absolute trust with this man, absolute trust. There is just a knowing that I never have to worry about the relationship or his faithfulness or loyalty, and he doesn't have to do that with me either. We are 100% just certain that we are for each other. Like, we trust one another. And that baseline just creates so much security. You can bloom and grow so far from that place. Her second one was communication. That communication is absolutely essential. You cannot be afraid to hurt each other's feelings and asking for an up level and asking for your needs and calling them out. And yeah, you can do it kindly, but you also do it firmly. Don't be afraid. Don't try to sugarcoat when things need to be said. And so I loved that aspect too. There's just deep communication, deep trust. And then there's also just encouragement of each other and living in each other's paths. Encouragement that you spend time, that the person spends time with their friends. Encouragement that this person chases their dreams. There's just support and encouragement and celebration of the sovereignty of what each person is and brings to that relationship, because that's what makes the relationship so rich, is that it's two whole, beautiful people. It is the polarity, it is the chemistry, it is the connection, it is the interest, it is the joy, it is the support, it is everything that you want in the relationship. And so it's really hard when people have control issues or lack of trust, which then spiral into control issues because they're not letting each other be. But if you have no trust, it might be something to look at in the relationship. I mean, listen, I'm all about trying things if it feels right in your body to try it, to do therapy for yourself and therapy maybe together about establishing that rapport, because without it, you have nothing. So, and then, communication supports trust and trust supports communication, and they feed into each other. But yeah, those are already two such foundational pieces. Where are you going to go from there if those are broken? It takes work, and maybe it's just not the right partnership. So I was really just inspired by these messages and what was shared with me about what is really needed in partnership. Another thing that somebody else said was it was my friend who's my esthetician and her husband, and first of all, they just have fun together. They're just so fun. Everything they do it's so fun, and they celebrate each other, and you can see that there's just so much admiration, and they speak about each other with admiration too. They don't stop having dates and doing fun things together. Even though they have kids, you can tell that they prioritize their time. You can tell that they make sure that they're enjoying the things they're doing together. And still, same thing, they agree that when someone needs to up level, the conversation needs to be had. It needs to be candid and honest, and they got to make it happen. So I look at all of these beautiful, perfectly imperfect relationships, and all of them have this similar through line. It's maintaining a sense of sovereignty and independence through safety, trust as baseline, communication, and creating time and joy with one another. Also, just having your own individuality is just massive. And when they were sharing this with me, I felt really good that I have those things. The one area that I feel I need to work on with my partner is communication. I think that's both of our downfalls a little. I think we're doing a pretty damn good job for a lot of people's standards, but I think we can be even better. I think we can be even more unapologetic about asking for our needs and realer about where we're at in terms of fears or not being met or whatever it is, without letting things kind of get to a place where we explode or we get scared. I think just communication. And communication also, it's important to know ourselves in order to be able to communicate. And that's something that we're working out right now, to just make sure that that is ironed out in such a way. But already it's like this rupture has created so much healthy communication. We both were like, I feel so much closer to you. I understand so much more about you. Thank you for sharing this with me and revealing it to me and being unapologetic. We can finally see each other more. And now it's just continuing that practice. But my God, having trust, what a breath of fresh air. I mean, I'll tell you that in my whole life, I didn't have a lot of trust since childhood. And then it got perpetuated, of course, into relationships. That's what happens. Whatever our baseline is, we co-create. It just keeps happening until we break that pattern and we develop the self-awareness and we work on it and we choose differently. I was a match to distrust. My first relationship, tons of cheating. Not me. Never me. Tons of cheating, tons of unfaithfulness, tons of just so much pain. It was so painful. And I thought, I'll never be able to trust again. How would I ever be able to trust again? And then a couple months after that breakup, I thought, I have no idea how to trust again, but I want to. And that was so pivotal for me. I don't know how, but I want this. It's, God, that's like something I really want everybody to understand is, you don't have to know how to get somewhere in order to claim that desire, in order to claim that that is who you're becoming and who you choose to start to be, even if you have no idea what the texture of that thing is or how to get there, whatever, but you're just like, I want that. I want to feel that. I know that that's good for me. I know that's what I want. Don't worry about the how, just declare it. And then I swear to you, that was just the process. I started to understand trust further and further and further in my body and in my experiences. And it started to be mirrored to me. And even tough things where I was facing them and being like, this is not what I want. This is what I want. This does feel trusting. This doesn't. Just stumbling through, but maintaining that vision. And it gets clearer and clearer and clearer and easier to believe and more embodied until suddenly you are trusting. And then I manifested the most trusting relationship ever, well, until this one. But at that time, which was somebody that I was in a relationship with for, well, the table I'm sitting on is not supposed to be sat on, was somebody I was in a relationship with for about 6.5 years. And we even got engaged because there was just so much safety. Safety, it's what I needed so badly. And we were fairly compatible. We were compatible for the time. I've changed a lot since then, and so has he. And it probably wouldn't have worked out because of that anyway, but then also we really didn't have much chemistry. I think we just had a lot of safety, and it felt really good, and a lot of respect for one another as people. And in the end, our question for each other was, I think, are we just supposed to be friends? And it was super painful, but it was beautiful. We were just on the same page, knowing that just isn't enough. There needs to be more of that, more connection, more chemistry, more spark as well, both. So when that relationship ended, but I was so happy. I was like, I understand trust. Like, I trusted him so much and he trusted me. And then my next relationship, after all that work and all that embodied belief about trust and understanding, suddenly it just fell apart. And I think it was because maybe just being so incompatible was it. I'm not entirely sure because, well, I do know that there was a deep inconsistency in this person's energy field, and inconsistency was my number one non-negotiable. That is my number one harm in this life, has been emotional inconsistency. Emotional inconsistency makes me shut down. Emotional inconsistency makes me lose touch with my safety. And if I can't feel safe, there's nothing we can do. I'm a wreck. I'm in fight or flight. And that was happening so much in this person's energy field, just being really inconsistent as a person, just kind of shifty, I would always say, in his energy. And maybe it was about me. I don't know. I mean, of course, of taking it personally at first, like, what the hell, like, what's going on? You're not like, want to do this? And then he'd tell me something, but his energy would just kind of be cold and confusing, and I just could not figure it out. And we lived together. And that made me shut down. That made me lose all sense of safety. That made me lose trust. Not because he was even doing anything or making me believe there was like trust in the outside world that I wasn't able to. I had no proof of anything. I don't even think anything happened, but I feel just in my body, like when there's inconsistency, you guys, we look for answers. And a relationship coach at that time told me that, because I was like, I'm losing my freaking mind. Like, all the sanity I used to have, I don't know. I'm up at night, like stressing out. I want to go through his phone. I have his location that he shared with me, like consensually, and I just fucking track this bitch all day long. Like, I can't even, damn it. Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And what's wrong with me was the question I kept asking. And this coach said, dude, when you don't have consistency, you're trying to understand patterns. Like, it's just a normal, it's the smart thing to do. It's wired into us. Like, nothing's adding up. What's going on? So you start to search, you start to spiral, you start to look, you start to try to investigate, right? Like, you're trying to establish safety and understanding why things are like, like this, you know? And so it gave me so much like self-compassion, just understanding like, damn. And then I had to decide if I could sit with that and I could actually be in that dynamic. And the answer in the end was fuck no. And I knew that. It was on my list of non-negotiables. And by the way, how do you even find your list of non-negotiables? Listen, it's pretty easy just to write down a bunch of things that you're like not chill with, or that like give you the ick or whatever. But to really, really know what doesn't work for you, I invite you to make a list of the things in your life that have caused you harm. This is from my training with Allahama. This is something I refer to a lot. What in your life has caused you harm? Think about your childhood specifically. And then of course you can look at things in your adult life as well, because they usually are perpetuated, and that's why they were so harmful in your adult life and so painful, because they were already triggering a deeper wound that was there since childhood. The most painful things in your life, they're painful because they were already painful to start with. And then you can of course look at the source. But a good example, so I'm going to give you some of the things on my list. Number one, like I said, inconsistency. Inconsistency has harmed me more than anything. You know what else has harmed me more than anything? Unchecked codependency. Like, I have codependent tendencies by nature, and other people, you know, my partner probably does too. It doesn't mean that because we both have that, it's an impossible fit, but it means that if we're not both checked on it and doing the work, then it's a fuck no. And yeah, inconsistency, codependency, number one harms in my childhood. Number three, I mean, it's not necessarily in order, but those kind of are. Having, any sort of betrayal, which was my first relationship harm. Lying, huge. Anything that has to do with just dishonesty. Dishonesty is a hard no in my book. There's many more, but those are where you go. You go to where you've been harmed, like most harm you've experienced in your life, and you write those things down. Oh, harsh words. That's just such a no for me. Like, it's such a no for me if somebody can't communicate kindly. And I've been harmed by that in my childhood. Like, I'm a tender person and I do things with kindness. And if somebody can't meet me there, it's a fuck no, baby. It's a fuck no. And so you look at your list, but don't forget the big ones. Like, it's funny, sometimes we can overlook that. If inconsistency was your greatest harm and you're most afraid of that or whatever, that's no. Don't date someone who's inconsistent or does things that makes them inconsistent or whatever the thing is. That's a no. It's just gotta be a no. So as you move forward in your life and you're understanding what you're calling in, I know this is a lot about partnership right now, but what you're calling in general, like anywhere that you've been harmed, when that comes up in your life again, that's where you can understand your boundaries. And then what's really powerful work that I learned to do in this training as well is not only how have I been harmed and understanding that those are my no's, but then knowing when I'm going into shutdown, when I'm losing my touch with my safety. And when I'm losing touch with my safety, meaning I'm literally going into like fight or flight or freeze or fawn, which was a big one for me, fawn, just people pleasing, losing myself, contorting. When I'm doing that, I know I've lost sense with my safety, and my safety is my divinity. My safety is my connection with source. My safety is where every beautiful, juicy aliveness, good thing that's right for me, my wellspring, my connection, my portal to all of the messages, the answers, and why I'm here. If I lose touch with that, because safety is the only way that I can even hear those things and be connected in that way and move and flow and be in coherence with myself. Yeah, I become incoherent. That's another way to say it. How do I know that I'm losing touch? How do I know I'm becoming incoherent with my own self? And then you write the things down. You write down your expressions of that. Maybe you start getting snippy with people. Maybe you start dissociating. Maybe you start really busying yourself and like getting kind of chaotic. Maybe you start not trusting yourself and trying to find answers in everything outside of you. Maybe you just don't want to hear anything. You self-isolate. And maybe it's a combination. But get really clear on, in the past, when you started to lose touch with that part of you, who did you become? What did you start doing? What were the actions, maybe beliefs, mindsets? Where did you go when you lost touch with your safety? Because when you lose touch with your safety, your body will start to show you that. So you got to get clear on those patterns, because then when you see yourself going into that hyperdrive mode, or you start seeing yourself dissociate, or you start seeing yourself self-isolate, you can go, oh, I know myself. This is because I've lost touch with safety. Why? Are there any no's, any ways that I've been harmed that I'm currently allowing into my field? And then we don't let those things into our field. We can communicate with people and say like, hey, this is why I don't allow this in my field, or I don't allow this in my field. I part of the training I'm speaking of too, we learned to say, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. I'm telling you I don't allow this. I'm telling you this is a no for me. And see if they can make that shift. See if that's authentic or aligned for them to make that shift. If it's not, it's not. And I think that's also why it's scary to ask for what we need, because we can be abandoned. We can be abandoned. I'm not going to lie to you. We can be disappointed. We can be let down, but we are not abandoning ourselves. And it reminds me of that Glennon Doyle quote I love so much, which is, if you are faced with the decision to betray someone else or betray yourself, I guess the word wasn't betray, because that sounds like you could be like cheating on someone or something. First of all, if you're cheating on someone, you're betraying yourself. I'm sorry, fam. But let's say this. It was disappoint. If you're faced with the decision to disappoint yourself or disappoint others, always, 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 every time, disappoint others. Always disappoint others before you disappoint yourself. If that's the option, I either have to disappoint myself or I have to disappoint someone else. Disappoint them. Don't disappoint yourself. I'm going to tell you, you're going to feel really uncomfortable, and you're going to be so, like, if you're a people pleaser, or you're somebody who's been codependent, or you're somebody who's learned to get worth from somebody else's approval of you, you're going to feel like, fuck, it's so painful. And I wish I could tell you that it's not, because like that was the whole catch-22 for me. I'm like, okay, but if I disappoint them, then I end up feeling like disappointed in myself too, because I feel like I did something bad. And it's a practice, but I want you to know, from me to you, and from a lifelong person, as somebody who's been working on this and coaching people in this for nearly a decade, if you are disappointing someone else, it does not mean that you did something bad. You disappointing someone else is not doing something bad. You disappointing someone else is okay. People can handle disappointment. They can handle. If it felt important to you to do whatever you did, imagining they weren't disappointed with the outcome, and then that's also how you can do it. You can imagine like, they're not upset. Okay, if they're not upset, then I can do this. But I don't want you to have permission. Like, that's a little like psych way to get in. But they don't need to give you permission. You don't need permission from anybody to do anything. Be in integrity with yourself. And if you're in integrity with yourself, you're in integrity with everyone. So I know people get like scared. They're like, well, are you giving advice to like crazy people to do bad things? What if that's integrity for them? And unless they have a real extreme personality disorder, in which case I'm not really talking to my beautiful, sweet friend. There's probably other advice for you. I don't know. But for anybody, the normal person with a just neurotypical brain working here on earth with a conscience and empathy, you know what's in integrity. You know. And you know what's in integrity for you. What's integrity for you is living your truth, living in alignment, choosing your joy, being honest, communicative, establishing your own safety, because if you have safety in yourself, others feel safe around you. If you have safety in yourself, then you can be safe for other people, and you can trust that you are doing the safe, right thing for you, and that in turn is actually the safe, right thing for them too. Because if you're contorting, that's not safe for that person. Like, this is also something I've had to learn in myself. Like, it's really hard to hear this, but you know, me contorting, it feels like it's I'm doing something nice for somebody else if I'm trying to fit into their world and put their needs first and all these things. But bro, like, that's fucked up. It's not even real. Like, I'm giving them a fake version of me. And it's very unsustainable, and that's painful for everyone. So can you imagine if somebody tried to step into your life and completely tried to contort to you? Maybe you've had that, maybe you haven't. I hadn't had that before. And I was like, you think that like you'd be okay on the other end of that, and maybe you would be for a while. Like, maybe it feels good for a while, and then it just doesn't. And it just doesn't. Because we want wholeness. We want wholeness and alignment for everyone. I mean, that is here. Like, that's why I'm here. I want everyone to feel whole and aligned and full and alive. I don't want to be fucking around with people who aren't at this point in my life. Like, it's kind of harsh. Like, I'll share some stories about even how this ties into friendship and just other non-romantic relationships. But I'm at a point in my life where I'm not rescuing anybody. I've done enough trying to rescue and be rescued. This is crazy. I never thought I was that girl. I was like, no, I'm not that girl. I've got myself. But every time I contort, I'm trying to be rescued. Every time I try to fit into someone else's world or hide something from me, I'm trying to get a sense of belonging and love. I'm trying to feel this thing from them that I wasn't giving to myself. That's fucking rescuing, bitch. Like, I didn't even know that. I didn't even see that. And now I see that. I was like, damn, I really thought I had me that whole time. I guess not. Having me is knowing what I want and what I need, and being clear on that. And something I love so much that my teacher, Keoni Hanalei, said, from my training, I know I keep mentioning it, it was just so transformative for me and I highly recommend it, was, if this doesn't work for you, if me being in my authenticity doesn't work for you, you disengage. This is my domain, me, my body, myself, as I am. And if that doesn't work for you, you disengage. There's plenty more matches in the world. There's plenty more places and people that align with you and will be right where you are. And that's beautiful. And you don't have to contort. Somebody will rise up and meet you where you are. And if they show you they're willing and you love that person, you can let them show you. No contorting though. No playing small. Let me know in the comments if you've heard really powerful long-term relationship advice that you want to share for anyone here. I'll take it. I love it. I'm always in a self-study. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always now looking for advice from the people that I'm admiring, with the people that I see as doing what I want to have and have in my life. That's where I'm going now. I've leaned on my friends in like the 2-3 year relationships, and I'm not saying that they don't have wisdom, but I'm really looking at the people that have stood the test of time and they have something to share. So those are the things I've learned. Those are the things I agree with. Those are the things that feel fundamentally true for me. And I'm curious if you know more about that too. Let's help each other out. I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have the most beautiful day. Follow along. I'll be recording videos daily for at least a while. more on schedule soon. We'll see. But follow along, and I'm excited that you're here, and it feels good to be raw and vulnerable with you.